For those of you who don't know, my name is Mynor Herrera. And today I'm with Mynor and Associates at Keller Williams Capital Properties. And today we're going to take a deep dive, depending, it's all relative, right? Into short-term rentals, specifically vacation rentals and things like that. So I'm very excited about this. I'm very passionate about this particular topic. As mentioned, for those who don't know, my name is Mynor. I am the founder of Mynor and Associates. It's a real estate team based here in Bethesda, Maryland. However, I am a native Washingtonian. So Maryland, DC, Washington, Virginia. We like to swim in and out of all those marketplaces pretty seamlessly. I am a founding partner in the Keller Williams Capital Property Bethesda office that started about 10 years ago now. Has somewhere between 150 some odd realtors on there. I started my own personal real estate team shortly thereafter. So we've been around a while, but more importantly, I've been doing investments for 20 years now. For 20 years, 20 long years. It's what's giving me the grays in my hair. No, I'm just kidding. So my first rental, as luck would have it, was in Bethesda back in 1999, or as my kids would say, the late 1900s. And I was 24 at the time. I was a young man, and I was a DJ at the time at bars and nightclubs. I was a fun guy back then. And I used my DJ money. I would just save it up. And I used that as a down payment for my first purchase. And so back then I was able to buy something with $10,000 down. It happened to be a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Bethesda, which was walking distance to 200 restaurants, 2 metro stops, and all that Bethesda had to offer, which back then really wasn't as much as it is now. But my mortgage was about $700. The condo fee was about $400. So $1,100 all in. And I had a roommate. That roommate paid $650 a month. So significantly more than half. And at that point I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And he thought he was getting a great rental rate. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're paying like most of my mortgage. So it was a win-win scenario. And ever since then I thought, wow, this real estate thing, I think there's something to it. Now, fast forward 20 years, we own a couple rental properties in Ocean City. I know Ocean City may not be the desired beach for some of you guys, but me, I'm salt of the earth kind of guy. Wink, wink, sort of, right? Not really. I was born and bred here, and this is the area that's the beach that I grew up going to. I love Ocean City. I'm sorry, deal with it. But we've done very well there. We bought a couple of properties. We ended up owning about 3 condos before I was 30. We recently actually just did a 1031 exchange, topic for another day. But we sold 2 of our condos and bought a bigger place right by the boardwalk. It's awesome. During the pandemic, because of the extremely low interest rates, we overpaid for 2 acres on the Eastern Shore. We have a nice big house there with a dock and big water. It's gorgeous. It's about 80 miles from here. And we have another boring rental in Montgomery County. I don't think I've seen it in about 5 years. And that's sort of why we're talking about Airbnb investments. I like to call them lifestyle assets. They're very fun. For me, if you have $100,000 laying around, not that all of us do, but let's just say you have $100,000, you could take that money and put it into mutual funds or a 401k or a 529 or whatever it is. And you never get to visit that, right? You can go online and be like, oh yeah, I made some money. That's awesome. But with real estate, you have $100,000. The bank will give you another 80%. You can acquire a $500,000 asset, and one that you can visit, one that you can rent out, one that you can go hang out with friends. You can realistically visit your money, so to speak, right? You can spend a week in Eastern Shore or Deep Creek Lake or wherever your heart desires. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm very excited about this topic. Okay, so we're going to move quickly here. And if you have any questions or comments, by all means, certainly let me know and we'll get into it. So what areas, should you invest in? And this for me is really the fun part, because the reality of it is where do you like to go? Where would you like to go? I like to stay within a reasonable driving distance in case anything comes up. Plus, it's much easier to get to know those areas, right? So for instance, for me, it was Ocean City. That was the beach I grew up going to. I love the boardwalk. I love the cotton candy, the Thrasher's fries, and just watching people on the boardwalk be weird because they're from Baltimore or whatever. Just kidding for all my Baltimore people out there. So it's very exciting for me, Ocean City. We also discovered Eastern Shore because we wanted to be closer. Ocean City is great. It's a 2.5-hour drive, right? Chestertown, where we wound up, was a town we never even heard of. And it was founded, I think, in 1605. So it's actually older than the country. And so we enjoy going there because it's 80 miles away. And it takes us about an hour and 15 minutes to get there. And when we get there, it's like a whole nother world. And I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy having a couple of acres. We get the dogs run loose and the kayaks. It's very fun. And we just bought it a little more than a year ago. Never heard of the town before, but now we can tell you there's a farmer's market every Saturday. There's basically 3 restaurants in town. One of them is on the water. There's a speakeasy bar. We can tell you all the things that you can do and have fun. And that's part of the process of getting into these Airbnbs, right? You want to invest in an area that you know or would really like to get to know, right? So it can be mountains like Deep Creek Lake, or city like DC, Annapolis, wherever it is that you'd like to maybe wind up as a retiree or something like that. So but that's really the fun part, right? Really get to feel out where it is that you want to be. Now, in doing so, there are things that you should consider. What is the rental season, right? In Ocean City, well, are you going to rent in February? Probably not. In Deep Creek Lake, you can rent in February. That's actually going to be a big season for you because they have Whist Mountain there. It's a ski resort. You can also rent in July because they have a lake. That's Deep Creek Lake. So that's a year-long rental. So the upside there is much bigger than Ocean City or Dewey Beach or Bethany or Rehoboth or whatever beaches you want to go to, right? And there, you basically have a 12-week season, right? For all intents and purposes, it's June, July, August. Can you rent in May, September, October, April? Yeah, you can. Shorter term rentals, but you have to really think to yourself, okay, can I pay for my mortgage and all the expenses in that short-term rental season? The other thing you have to consider, especially if you're looking at DC, I know my wife and I were always like, yeah, we should really get a place in DC. So when we're older, we have a place to hang out in and all that good stuff. But there's a lot of short-term rental restrictions, especially in DC, right? They're almost anti-Airbnb. You have to be a resident to be able to hold more. There's a lot of things that you have to consider there, but not only the local government, but sometimes with the buildings themselves. If you're buying a condo, sometimes these condo buildings don't want you to Airbnb because it throws off certain ratios that are important to them when it comes time to financing and selling the condos in there. So certain condos will have restrictions about whether you can or can't, right? If you're a dog lover and you have a pet, right? Okay, maybe you as the primary owner can have a pet, but if you rent it out, they can't have pets. So there's certain rental restrictions that you want to be aware of. And finding that out, well, that's the importance of having a good realtor. And if you don't know one, I can introduce you to one. The other thing is, how close is it, right? If you're in Deep Creek Lake, well, that's like 3.5 hours away. Then you have to go through all these mountain passes. And if it snows, maybe it's longer. If you're going to Ocean City, you got to cross the Bay Bridge, right? If you're going to Frederick, you got to go up 270. You have to figure out for yourself, okay, how long does it take me to get there? Is it something that I feel comfortable saying, if something goes wrong, can I drive over there? In lieu of that, do I have a contact there, a handyman, a cleaning person that can take care of little things for me, right? So there's a comfort level. Are you a free range parent that allows your children to roam the streets, go out and come back when it's dark? Or are you a little bit more of a helicopter parent? Because that will actually tell you how you're going to be with real estate as well. If you don't have kids, I have to think of a better analogy. I'll come up with one before the end of this presentation. The other thing is, what is the sustainability of the area as a vacation destination? So for instance, as I've said, all evening so far, I love Ocean City. But Ocean City is a peninsula. It's basically like this, right? A peninsula. There's bay on one side and there's ocean on the other side. And eventually climate change is going to put all of that underwater, right? All of it. Not financially speaking, literally it will be underwater, right? When will that happen? I don't know. It sounds like maybe my grandkids' problem, but at the rate we're going, it might be my kids' problem. It might be my problem. But you have to think about that, right? With climate change, are the storms going to be worse, right? With the ski season, I know there were a couple of times we looked at Whitetail, which is, I think, about an hour or so away, but we were like, my gosh, this ski season is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Are we going to be able to rent out enough during the ski season to make it worth it for us, right? So those are the things that you have to think of, right? Is it a trendy area because the Blair Witch Project made, that particular area famous for a little while? Will people actually go after the novelty of the movie wears off, right? Think about those kinds of things. And again, do the rental rates justify the rental itself, right? So when we bought in Chestertown, a town we had never heard of, population 5,000, we in our minds thought, oh my gosh, if we can rent 2 weeks here, we will be lucky. Now, it turned out to be a year-long rental. And I think we were a little bit fortunate because COVID sort of limited vacation destinations for a lot of people. So a lot of people just wanted to discover quick, short getaways, right? So it sort of lucked out for us. I mean, we lucked out for it and with it because the mortgage is roughly about 30,000 and we'll probably make about 45 this year, maybe even 55 on it. So we were very fortunate. We weren't sure though, is this going to be a long-term thing or not? But in our minds, we were thinking of it more of a luxury purchase and a rental second, that we kind of lucked out on it. Now, you do enough homework, you're going to figure out, okay, what works and what doesn't work. But those are some of the things that you'll want to consider when you're making the purchase. And of course, you want to enjoy where you're going. All right, financing. I know a lot of you don't like to talk about the money part. You can't avoid it, okay? Inevitably, you're going to have to come up with 20% for a down payment, right? At least. Those of you that can buy cash, that's great. With the interest rates being as low as they are, you may want to reconsider that, right? Finance some of that money because it's so cheap to borrow. So 20% tends to be the rule of thumb. Of course, you want to speak with the lender to develop a game plan. If you don't have that yet, or it really depends on what kind of property you want to purchase, a single family home, a townhouse, a condo, anything in between, right? Even a multi-unit. You'll want to speak with a lender to make sure that you have a clear game plan ahead of time, right? For those of you that own businesses, it can be a little bit tricky. Are you reporting all your income so that you can qualify accordingly, right? Are you able to sustain your current mortgage if you own a primary home, as well as purchase another one? Right. So you want to make sure that you're speaking with a lender to develop a game plan. Again, if you don't know anybody, we can certainly recommend a couple of people for you. And again, we talked about it. Can the rental generate enough income to cover your mortgage, right? Think about the place that you're going to invest in. Is it a place where people are going to go for a week or a weekend? That makes a big difference because if they're going for week-long trips, then suddenly the math is simple. Can I generate 12 months of income 12 weeks of rentals that's going to generate enough income to cover my mortgage, right? My principal, my interest, my taxes, and insurance. However, it does go beyond just the mortgage, right? You have additional expenses that you need to account for. You're going to have a cleaning crew. Every time somebody leaves the place, you're going to have to pay somebody to clean it. You're going to have maintenance issues, right? When you're living in your own home, yeah, you're going to take care of everything. Yeah, things aren't going to break down as much. But when you have a rental, then people are going there to let off some steam, particularly if you're going to Ocean City. People are going to get crazy with your place. They're going to be jumping up and down in the bed. They're going, woo, they're going to be making their Instagram videos and all that kind of stuff. And, they're going to be slamming the microwave shut and doing all these types of things, right? So you have to be aware of, you got to account for some maintenance things. So all of those things you want to make sure that you're taking into account. That's my dog, by the way, in case you could hear that. All right, so financing, be conservative with that, right? It can only help you in the long run, all right? Now, operations. Now, I know some of you have tuned in specifically for this part. It's really not that difficult. It's really not once you have your systems in place, okay? You're going to need everything you will to run your own household, except you're going to need in a totally different community, right? There's an entirely different social network ecosystem that you're going to have to get in tune with, right? So here being in the DC area, it's very easy to say, is there a cleaning person? Yes. Probably every other neighbor has a cleaning person that they can refer you to, right? Is it easy to find, handymen and contractors and all that stuff? Yeah, but now you got to do it someplace where you don't live, right? So think about that and how you'll get about doing that. But the two most important people that you'll need are going to be cleaners because they're the ones that are going in and out on a regular basis, right? They're going to be your eyes and ears. Is the carpet stained? Did a window break? Is the refrigerator starting to break down? They're going to be your eyes and ears, and you're going to be very reliant on your cleaners. So you want to make sure you have very, very good cleaners that you trust. You're also going to want a handyman. Everything is going to go wrong. The towel rack will break more often than you will realize. Sometimes locks will break, or there'll be a leak under the kitchen sink, or the AC won't work as much, right? You need to have all those people. And sometimes you need to have landscapers as well. Excuse me. So those are the most important people in my mind that you will need. And additionally, it's good to have a contractor, an HVAC specialist, an appliance specialist, and so forth. Now, some of the ways that you can learn about these people or connect with these people, obviously through social media. There's a lot of local Facebook groups, that you can join, that you can get tips from, you get inside scoop on the area and all that good stuff. But the bigger the area, the more likely they're going to have. Some of these groups actually have like Airbnb groups or short-term rentals. They have groups where they can all rely on each other and they can know a little bit more about the local laws, events that are coming up that you should be aware of. I know at the beach in particular, they have one event called the H2O. Not really sure the purpose of the event other than to get crazy and come with loud cars and motorcycles and just generally cause a ruckus. And so a lot of people just don't rent during that time because it's insane, right? It's insane. And those are the kinds of things that you pick up when you're on these Facebook groups. For those who are a little bit younger, Instagram, right? So that's the basic operations. Now, one of the big things, a lot of things can be played out with a basic check-in letter. Okay, you tend to overthink this a little bit or overlook this, but a check-in letter is very, very, very important because it's going to give your renters all the information that they need, right? All the information you need. When they can check out, check in, how do they get into the house, right? How do we get the key to get into the house? That's an easy answer, by the way. It's a lockbox, combination lockbox, right? You change the combination every week. Your cleaners can do that for you, or you can get an electronic lock on the door. So that's very simple. What will the renters need during their stay? For instance, in a lot of hours, they have to bring their own linens, their own sheets, their paper towels products, right? Toilet paper, that sort of thing, right? What will the renters need? Right. And we also want the renters to report any issues because you don't want them to be blamed for it. You want them to walk the property for you and say, hey, you know what, Mr. Landlord, there's actually a hole in the ceiling. The screen is missing. The kayak is broken, whatever it is, so that you can look at the last person, talk with your cleaning crew and then figure out how to take care of it from there. Now, because of Airbnb and VRBO, they're actually offering insurance now, so it makes it easier to file claims. You can do security deposits, that sort of thing. Your check-in letter should also have recommendations for what to do in the area. Hey, I noticed there's a running group that meets on Saturdays. There's like a fishing crew that likes to fish on the dock on Wednesdays, whatever it is, right? They have 2 for 1 night at the club down the street, stumbling distance from your home. You want to make sure that you're providing recommendations for whatever it is that's known for that area. And then, of course, what to do on checkout, right? If you do provide linens, maybe you have them wash the linens for you. And then when the cleaning crew comes in, they simply set them up for you, right? Sometimes we do 2 sets of linens, right? One where they can wash it, the cleaning crew puts it in the dryer, then folds it up, and another one that's ready to put out. So there's a lot of little clever things that you can do, and we can go that in more in depth when it's the right time for you. But that's the basic run of the operations. Okay, now the possibilities, right? You have to think about it like our Chestertown home, right? Nobody's ever really heard about Chestertown, at least I haven't. But the home becomes the destination, right? There's a lot of things that you can do that makes the home the destination, right? So this is our place in Chestertown, right? As you can see, we have gorgeous sunsets every night. It comes with a dog. No, I'm just kidding. That's our dog, Pepper. We have kayaks. We have a foosball table. My wife insists on telling you that we have a karaoke machine there. And apparently it's a huge hit. And when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you can wail to your heart's content. No one's going to hear you. But, foosball, you can have a gaming station. You can have fire pits, kayaks, boats, hammocks, soccer, baseball, whatever it is that you want. You create that place like it's little oasis, right? And then suddenly it opens up the possibility of where you can buy. Because if you're thinking, I would love to have an Annapolis, right? There's a town, there's a harbor, there's all that stuff. Well, Annapolis is quite expensive. That if you look at a place like Chestertown or whatever random city in Maryland or Virginia you can find that's on the water, but it's not as well known. Well, if it's close to the DMV, you can make it a destination location, right? It's a really cool thing that you can do when you buy something well under market value compared to some of the other areas where you can buy, and then you set it up so that it's a destination, right? And we have a certified stager on our team. I happen to be married to her, and she will actually provide you with a staging consultation on what you can do to pick out, great furniture and set up some amenities. And, she likes to say home is a feeling, and that's what we're trying to create, because people think up here, but they move on the emotions. You want to tug at those heartstrings. Okay. So once you have your whole place set up and all that, it's just a matter of marketing the place, making sure that we're getting the word out in as many places as possible. It's very simple. Airbnb and VRBO have really led the way in terms of making this easy and accessible to everyone. You don't have to be a grade A college graduate with an MBA in marketing or anything like that. You simply go on Airbnb and VRBO, any local website. Sometimes there's local websites that offer an opportunity to promote your rentals, and make sure you take plenty of pictures, because the pictures often tell the story. Okay. Many times people won't even read the description. They'll just see, oh my gosh, there's the ocean. Oh my gosh, there's the ski resort. There's whatever, right? Here's a picture of the foosball table, right? The arcade, whatever it is that you have. Make sure you take plenty of photos from different angles and so forth. And you'll also want to make sure that you get plenty of reviews. Now, why do we put the reviews as part of the marketing? Because the reviews give you credibility. If you're coming across a location, you're like, oh my gosh, I've never even heard of this place, and it costs XYZ, but look, they have 30, reviews, 50 reviews. Oh my gosh, they're all telling me how wonderful it is, and we should definitely go there. That provides you with credibility. It also helps you with placement on some of these websites, right? They bump you up based on how many reviews you have. Also, social media provides you with an endless assortment of opportunities, right? Because you can promote it in the local Facebook group, right? In the local Instagram account. You can promote it on your own account, which probably has tons of people that would love to support you in your Airbnb. You can create your own hashtag, right? Hashtag Herrera Adventures, right? Or hashtag, I don't know, the Bay Crab Bay Beach House, whatever it is, right? And have your renters tag the hashtag or place the. What do you do with the hashtag? Do you tag a hashtag or do you do the hashtag? Anyway, use the hashtag when you're posting pictures and so forth. And then it becomes another entity in of itself. It's very organic, right? And it starts to create this tsunami of like interest from different places. Suddenly you're getting inquiries from Facebook and Instagram and Airbnb and VRBO. And it becomes this great thing, right? And you establish a rapport with your renters where they come back again, again, and again, and again. We were fortunate just recently, we had somebody staying in our place and they literally booked their next year's vacation while they were still there, right? And that's the kind of thing that you want to create, right? Once they're there, you want to take care of them. Some people like to provide a bottle of champagne in the fridge, right, that the cleaning crew will leave out for them. Some people provide little goodie bags, right, that have like, I don't know, soap and shampoo or whatever. And there's little touches that you can do to do that. And there's no end to that, right? And so, this becomes your own personal project and you take a lot of pride into the process. So make sure, that comes through. So the possibilities, right? Understand that this requires effort. It is work, right? It's a lot of fun, but it can be chaotic at times, right? When people are checking in on a Saturday or Sunday and they show up after like an 8-hour drive or 3-hour drive and the air conditioning's not working, right? You have to be there and you have to be patient and understanding, right? But with a little bit of elbow grease, things work out, right? You have to have a little bit of a thick skin, which is ironic because for those of you who know me, know that I wear my sleeves, my emotions on my sleeve. But even I've become accustomed to it, right? You just have to say, you know what? These people are on their vacation. Let's do what we can to take care of them. And stuff will go wrong, and you have to be okay with it, right? Sometimes you just say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Renner, I'm so sorry that the air conditioning isn't working working right now. Somebody's going to come out and fix it tonight. In the meantime, here's $100. Go to XYZ restaurant and relax for a little while. It'll be resolved by when you get back. Or you give them a free night or something like that. But you just have to stay flexible. And by and large, most people are going to be patient with you. So for us, our newest adventure is in Ocean City. Here's the townhome, the yellow one that we just purchased. It's pretty funny because it has a garage and I've never had a garage even in my primary home. But most importantly, it has an ice maker on the outside of the fridge, and I've never had one of those. So I'm very excited about that. And so we just put it up on the market, I think a day or two ago. And within the first couple of hours, we already had 2 renters in there. And we put it at an obnoxiously high price just to screw around, see what would happen. and lo and behold, there it is. So it's walking distance to a great outdoor bar and club and the boardwalk and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, I'm very, very passionate about these projects because they're a lot of fun. For me and my family, it's created a lifetime of opportunities, both financially and emotionally, right? It brings us together when we can say, hey, we always have a place we can go, no matter what. And from a financial standpoint, I will tell you, one of our success stories, we bought one of our early beach condos, I want to say in the mid 2000s, early, the aughts, I think we called them. So somewhere around 2006, somewhere in that area, when the market was really, really hot. So we bought at the peak, and like within a year or two, the value dropped by 100,000, but it never mattered because other people were paying the mortgage, right? Other people paid the mortgage, the rents increased over time, and then the value eventually bounced back. But you know what? Now we own it outright. And I think we did it in like 15 years. We own it outright. So it's just a cash cow at this point. It's fully renovated. It's walking distance to the beach. It's just all profit. It's all profit. All that money, we saved a little bit of a cushion, and the rest goes into our 529, right? It goes into our 529 so we can pay college for our kids, right? At least one of them. And this is sort of the beauty of this, is that you put the time in, and over time, the values increase if you want to sell it, or it's just a constant cash cow. And I mean, it will do wonders for you, from both a financial and emotional standpoint. And I've enjoyed it. Does it require a little bit of work? Yes, it does. Don't be deceived that it doesn't. But for me and our family, it's definitely been worth it. And I have no doubts that it will be for you. So yes, if I can do it, you can certainly do it. I can envision many of you, hopefully some of you buy a ski place, because that's our next target. And I would like to visit you in your ski places, or anywhere else where, oh, look at that. They're turning off the lights on us because perhaps the time is done. So yes, with that said, it is 7:30. We did promise that we would get you in and out in 30 minutes. So if you have any questions or comments, now is the time. You can drop them in the chat. If you want to turn on your camera, if you're on Facebook Live, or Instagram TV, or if some of you are twitching, I'm kidding, I don't even really know what Twitch means. Now is the time. So if you have any questions or comments, certainly let me know. Otherwise, it tells me that I've done a heck of a job and have explained everything very thoroughly. So there shouldn't be any. So thoughts, questions, comments, please let me know. And I'm going to work on this light switch while
Hey, Mynor.
Is that Caitlin?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can. How are you, Caitlin?
Great, great. Hey, thanks so much for sharing all of this information. I took a lot of notes.
Good.
One question I have is, so you touched on a little bit of the financial component. You're really looking to have, a minimum of 20% down when you're purchasing these. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if there's any other parameters, like in addition to that you're really looking for. Is there a certain amount of months of an emergency fund you guys are also making sure you have on the side? Are these properties needing to guarantee a certain amount of cash flow every month? What other financial parameters are you looking for when you're like, okay, you know what, we're really ready now to buy another property?
Right. So I think there's a two-pronged question in there that you may not have even realized, that what is it with regards to qualifying for the financing portion thing? You probably weren't even asking that, but I think it's important to bring up. When you're qualifying, it's important for you to be able to afford your own home, your primary home. I'm assuming that many of you will be primary home owners, as well as handling a second home that has no rental history attached to it. So when a bank is looking at you, they're going to think, okay, can they afford their primary mortgage as well as their secondary home? Okay, so that's one thing that maybe we sort of we didn't really dive deep enough, but keep that in mind. Now, for me personally, you have to look at the seasons of when you purchase. So, for instance, the condos that we just sold in Ocean City, 2 of them, we put them up on the market in September, which, not coincidentally enough, is at the end of the rental season, meaning that we squeezed everything dry from those condos and then sold them to somebody else. And they then had to carry it for December, January, February, March, April before they can realistically get any kind of rental income. So that particular buyer had to have 5 months worth of expenses minimum to ensure that they could carry the loan for that long, right? Because they weren't going to get any rental income before that, anything worth noting. So it really depends on the season. If you have a year-round rental like Deep Creek, then yeah, basic rule of thumb is you want to have like 3 months reserves saved up. Now, I have to confess, I'm a little bit of a gambler in that sense. And really in no areas in other life, and I tend to be financially conservative, but when I see the numbers and I think to myself, this is a year-long rental, I know that people are going there on a weekly basis. When we bought our second condo, I actually listed it for rent while we were under contract, so that by the time we settled, I had renters going in there the following week. And I knew that the demand for rentals was so high that I would never have an issue. So in my mind, if I could just stay 1 month ahead or 2 months ahead, we were good. But to be conservative, I would say you should have 3 months worth of expenses built up, just like you would in normal life, even though most of us probably don't have 3 months of expenses saved up, reserves. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
So, but again, don't be afraid to pull the trigger, particularly in high rent areas. DC, big cities, DC, New York, Miami. If it's local, like Annapolis, Annapolis in the winter, not so much. But the beach, Deep Creek, right? They're going to rent. And I'm sorry, it sounded like you had a follow-up.
Nope, that was it. They were my questions.
Yep.
Thank you.
Personal risk assessment. So, look in here, talk to the lender as well. And some of you may have spouses who may be a little bit more or less risk averse, and that becomes an issue as well, right? It becomes an issue of like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out over this. So you don't want this to become a source of stress, because it's really the opposite of that. It really should be the opposite of that. But once you see those rentals coming in, it starts to make your heart pitter patter a little bit in excitement. But if you really think about it, that pitter patter of stress and pitter patter of excitement, it's the same reaction. It's just how you interpret it up here. So keep that in mind. Okay. Anything else from the group? Anything on Facebook or Instagram? Looking at my team over here. No, thank you so much for attending. As I mentioned, we do record this because we distribute out. There's a lot of people out there who love to listen to these things on record. We appreciate our live studio audience. Thank you all for taking the time. If you ever have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate from reaching out. I'm sure you have our contact information, and we would love it if we would see you in a vacation home soon. Definitely tag us on anything that you're thinking about doing. And again, we look forward to catching up. Thank you for your time, everyone. Have a good night.